Today, we're going to look into the twisted backstory of a villain unlike any other. This isn't about villains with laser eyes or destructive plans for global domination. This is about a pervert whose weapon is mind control. We're talking about Purple Man, the monster who brought Jessica Jones's worst nightmare to reality for 8 agonizing months under his control. You wouldn't wish that on your worst enemies. Let's peel back the layers and uncover the origins of this purple predator, the man who would become Jessica Jones's arch enemy. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is the Purple Man? The Purple Man, or Zebediah Killgrave, is a bad man in the Marvel Comics world. Created by Stan Lee and artist Joe Orlando, he first showed up way back in 1964, messing with Daredevil's day. What makes him such a jerk? Well, a couple of things. First, his purple skin isn't exactly a fashion statement, but that's the least of his problems. The real issue is his mind control powers. He basically turns people into puppets by whispering orders. He used to be a spy, but then chemicals. A big accident screwed him up real bad, turning him purple and giving him those mind control powers. Classic comic books. It's hard not to wish real life worked like that. Killgrave mostly uses his powers to be a jerk, manipulating people for his own gain. He's especially awful to Jessica Jones, who had to deal with his mind games firsthand. Not cool, Purple Man, not cool. Truth be told, Purple Man is actually pretty smart. He's a master manipulator even without mind control. This makes him a tough opponent for superheroes, not just because of his powers, but because he's good at twisting their heads too. Purple Man might have started as a Daredevil villain, but he's become more associated with Jessica Jones thanks to the Netflix series. David Tennant played a fantastic version of the character there, reminding everyone why the Purple Man is such a pain in the butt. Kara Killgrave. It's not confirmed or official, but Purple Man has a daughter. Her name's Kara Killgrave, and come on, the family isn't exactly picture perfect. The Purple Man once met a woman named Melanie in a bar, used his powers to make her marry him, then actually fell for her and let her go. I don't think I've ever seen that level of mixed signals. Anyways, Melanie escaped, and a while later, surprise, she had Purple Man's kid, Kara. When Kara hit 13, things got interesting. Her skin turned purple just like her dad's, and she got some mind control powers of her own. This isn't the kind of birthday present most teens would want. Her mom finally came clean and told her the truth about her dad. Kara, not exactly thrilled about it, decided to go by Purple Girl instead and ended up hanging out with Alpha Flight, a superhero team in Canada. Maybe being around other heroes would help her deal with the fact that her dad was a supervillain. How would you deal with something like that? What was Purple Man actually doing? So Purple Man rolled into New York City with big dreams of becoming world ruler. He started small, using his powers to rob banks and basically boss people around. Easy pickings, you might think, but then Daredevil showed up. Apparently, the Purple Man hadn't met anyone with willpower strong enough to resist his mind control till now. Whoops, looks like world domination will have to wait. Purple Man got sent to prison, but being a supervillain and all, he planned to get out of there ASAP. He set up shop in San Francisco, built a whole criminal empire, only to be foiled by Daredevil yet again. Seriously, this guy just can't catch a break. This time though, instead of prison, his empire just kind of crumbled. And where do broken people go? Back to New York. There, he tried to use his powers to control a big shot businessman and make him commit crimes. Not cool, Purple Man. This whole scheme ended badly with the businessman taking his own life. Yikes. Daredevil found out about the Purple Man's involvement and confronted him in prison. Purple Man ended up jumping in the ocean, seemingly drowning. But guess what? Villains with mind control don't go down that easily. Purple Man survived, but this whole experience made him rethink his villainous career path. Apparently, world dominance isn't all it's cracked up to be. He decided to ditch the criminal life and become a more relaxed guy instead. Better late than never? Daredevil and Killgrave. So how did Purple Man and Daredevil cross paths? In a 1964 issue of Daredevil, Purple Man first appears, entering a bank and robbing it by merely asking the teller behind the counter to fill his briefcase with $100 bills. If only it were so easy in real life. Once the teller realizes what he's done, he contacts the police who arrest Killgrave. Killgrave is taken to court and he states that he doesn't want a lawyer representing him. However, the court appoints none other than Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock. Matt decides to meet with Killgrave, taking Karen with him. Purple Man tells him that he requires no assistance as he has no intention of staying locked up any longer. He shows this by asking the guard to let him out. He then asks Karen to become his secretary and she agrees to do so without a moment's pause. Obviously, this made Matt Murdock extremely suspicious. Murdock tracks Killgrave as Daredevil, and when the Purple Man sees the mask-wearing hero, he tries to convince him that he's just a tourist and not the Purple Man. This works on the masses of onlookers, but not on Matt, whose abilities appear to be shielding him from Killgrave's influence. Not to be discouraged, the Purple Man orders the crowd to attack Daredevil as he and Karen flee. Matt heads back to meet with the distraught Foggy Nelson, while the Purple Man goes to a gym and manipulates the strongmen who are working there to be his bodyguards. He might be purple and funny looking, but Killgrave definitely has brains because he then takes over the top floor of a luxury hotel and now feels like he's king of the world. Since Killgrave has only asked people to comply with his demands, Matt Murdock believes that he hasn't broken any laws. As a result, he uses an undercover voice recorder to get Killgrave to confess to having powers. The Purple Man's goons are easily defeated by Daredevil, but Killgrave drags Karen to the top of the hotel and tells her to jump. In order to save Karen from plummeting to her death, Daredevil arrives just in time and gives up. Matt asks Killgrave where his power came from. Killgrave claimed to be a spy who gained his abilities after a botched operation left him covered in purple nerve gas. Karen is saved by Daredevil when he attacks the Purple Man and records his admission on camera. Daredevil confronts Killgrave in a crowd once more and covers him with a plastic sheet that has been chemically treated, absorbing his power to influence others. Well done. Killgrave is then taken into custody. So what's Daredevil been up to recently? Let's talk about one of his recent comic issues. Daredevil number 4. In a helicopter heading to destruction, Daredevil is traveling from New York City. Matt Murdock won't openly admit his life is at risk, but with the team on the way, they're greeted by Elektra. The sound of her heartbeat calms Matt. She knows why Daredevil stayed behind. He had to clear things up with Kirsten and break it off as there's no room for her in what lies ahead. Elektra tells everyone that the billions of dollars she stole from the Stormwinds are now being used for something worthwhile. Daredevil knows that Stick is a part of this operation, but Elektra claims that Stick's involvement stems from his discovery of the Fist's texts. Jab, one of the team's members, questions a guy in a Halloween costume. And can we blame him? Ready to settle any disagreements about his leadership, Daredevil approaches Jab. In case you didn't know, Daredevil possesses incredible senses. He could sense the fear coming off of Jab in waves. This confrontation is interrupted by Doc Sasquatch, also known as Leonard Samson, one of Daredevil's secret weapons, welcoming everyone to the Fist. Later on in the evening, Elektra, Stick, and Daredevil talk about the hired mercenaries, many of whom are former members of the Hand and are aware of what needs to be done. After meeting the Shadow Leader, discovering the truth, and learning of the Stormwind's global schemes, Daredevil gives them an update on his recent experiences in New York. Given that Frank Castle is their new Fist of the Beast, he validates Elektra's prophecies. Stick cuts her off, pointing out that the Fist has their own prophecies involving two beasts, a king and a queen, while Elektra has hers. If they make it through the ceremony, Elektra and Daredevil are supposed to be these leaders. As Cole gets used to his new way of life, the mercenaries find it difficult to accept it because they regard him as an outsider, which could jeopardize their safety. They caution him to stay out of the way and not get into any problems. Elektra gets ready to leave and Daredevil finds his place. Despite his sacrifices, Daredevil is dedicated to a greater cause and is still in love with Kirsten. Foggy wishes to go with them before they depart, but he's informed that only Elektra and Daredevil can make this journey and he would probably die. They promise Foggy that they'll be back by dusk. The two travel through dangerous mountains to reach the entrance of a cave, which Stick claims is home to the Hand's souls. They have to beat these souls in order to raise the Fist again. They turn to face the glowing eyes in the cave, swords drawn. Matt Murdock's life is more complicated than it's ever been, but he cannot choose to die. Cole exercises and shows off his fighting prowess by sparring with Jab, while Elektra and Daredevil fight the souls. After destroying the souls, Daredevil and Elektra lie on the ground exhausted. When Elektra is asked by Daredevil if she's still alive, Stick appears and begins reading from the texts. He asks them about giving up their former lives in exchange for the Hand's power. After they both say "I do," Stick proclaims them to be the new Fist's king and queen, as well as husband and wife. That puts an end to this issue. How did Purple Man use his powers to torture Jessica Jones sexually? As dark as the Netflix series was, the comics went way darker with Purple Man. A comic called Alias by Brian Michael Bendy really cranked things up, and it's only for mature audiences. Jessica Jones is introduced as a private investigator who was actually a superhero named Jewel, but that was before Killgrave kidnapped her and brainwashed her into being his slave/girlfriend. He even tried to make her kill Daredevil, but luckily it didn't work. Thankfully, an X-Men member, Jean Grey, swooped in and broke the spell. That's a pretty rough breakup. No wonder Jessica became a PI with PTSD, as she needed a new start. Jessica manages alias investigations instead of dressing in tights and capes, taking on strange cases that occasionally involve other superheroes. However, Jessica's journey to overcome her past as the superhero Jewel is the true narrative. Nothing is sugarcoated in the comic. Jessica's a mess, but that's what makes her real. She's attempting to come to terms with her current identity and put the trauma behind her. In the first few issues, Jessica finds a missing woman, which leads to a plot involving Captain America and the President. Now that's interesting. More details about Jessica's life and her interactions with other superheroes are revealed as the plot progresses. Then there's a notable reveal about Jessica's past as Jewel, explaining why she gave it all up. And this is the part we'll talk about in a while. Purple Man wouldn't leave her alone. Jessica eventually got strong enough to fight back and shut him down. Daredevil even threw him in a special supervillain jail. From there, Purple Man became a bigger deal in the whole Marvel universe, even starting his own team. Now, let's talk about how Killgrave found Jessica and tormented her for 8 months straight. Alias, issue 25. The issue begins with Jessica opening her eyes to an unknown place. She's only in her lingerie and has no idea where she is. Turns out she's with Luke Cage and has no recollection of what actually happened. They both start talking about Killgrave, and Jessica then takes a trip down memory lane. A few years ago, Jessica Jones was a costume superhero. Her greatest problems in life were finding a job and a boyfriend. During her time as a young superhero named Jewel, she encountered the Purple Man. One day she noticed a disturbance at a nearby restaurant, and upon entering, she saw two men fighting to the death for the amusement of a man with purple skin and a disturbing smile. She's powerless to resist his commands as he tells her to come in and take a seat. Anyone in close proximity to Killgrave inhales the pheromones his body emits, which is how his powers work. These, along with the chemical that changed his skin and gave him his abilities, gives him total control over the thoughts and wills of his victims, enabling him to fully dictate their behavior. He tells Jessica to take off her clothes as one of his first orders. She feels strange and begins to follow orders, but the Purple Man sends her outside to deal with the cops, where she uses her superpowers to repel them. He decides to keep Jessica as his slave, and for 8 months he dominates her thoughts. He never touches her physically, but he makes her watch while he mistreats other girls, washes her, and puts her to sleep like a dog at his feet. He wants her to suffer and beg during this period of psychological torture as payback for every beating Daredevil gave him and every time Spider-Man stopped him. Killgrave spends so much time in her head that she can't distinguish between his commands and her own desires. The Purple Man got angry one day as he read a newspaper headline about Daredevil saving the city. He gives Jessica instructions to put on her costume, fly to the Baxter Building or the Avengers Mansion or wherever Daredevil might be, stick a metal pipe up his butt, and murder any superheroes she comes across. The farther Jessica gets from him, the more she begins to escape his mind control as she takes off to obey. Though her body and mind are rebelling, she can't help but thinking about him because he's been there for so long. Even though she's unaware that Daredevil isn't an Avenger and doesn't use the Avengers Mansion, she flies there in search of him. Unable to stop herself, she punches the Scarlet Witch in the back of the head. The other Avengers and Defenders immediately see Jessica as a threat. They swarm her, assuming she's a villain attacking Wanda. Vision, with tears in his eyes because he's married to Wanda, is among those who attack. Jessica tries to escape, but Thor quickly catches her and swings his hammer. Well, that's an amazing cliffhanger to end the issue. What happens next? You should probably go read the comic.
Stop moving, car.
Jessica Jones, the Netflix series. This Netflix show, which ran from 2015 to 2019, is dark and more about detective drama than spandex suit action. Kristen Ritter plays Jessica, a former superhero who gave up the cape after a nasty encounter with a certain villain. You guessed right, it's Killgrave. Now she runs a detective agency, trying to put her past behind her. It's not that easy though, because Killgrave, played by David Tennant, toys with her mind, and Jessica has to deal with this fallout, including PTSD. Wow, who would have thought that Doctor Who would go on to torment Jane Margolis from Breaking Bad? Jessica Jones was part of a group of Marvel shows on Netflix, but even though it connects to the bigger Marvel world, it's very much its own thing. It's all about the characters and their struggles rather than big fight scenes. Jessica Jones ended after 3 seasons, but it had a great run, and you should definitely check it out. Comics versus TV show. There's some differences between the comic and the TV show. Mainly, the Purple Man is just straight up called Killgrave with purple skin. A bit much if you ask us, but in the show they toned it down. He's a normal looking man with a normal name, Kevin Thompson, with some purple veins popping out, gets mad. Makes him seem less like a cartoon villain and more like someone you might actually bump into. There's a big difference in their stories too. In the comics, Killgrave toys around with Daredevil a lot. In the show, it's all about Jessica Jones, and things are relatively darker in the comics because Jessica actually kills someone under his control and she has to break free from him all by herself. No X-Men coming into the rescue here. Marvelous verdict. So what have we learned so far? Purple Man isn't someone to be messed with, and it's best to just stay far away from him. Can't risk sniffing those pheromones. On the other hand, what he did to Jessica Jones was traumatizing. She got her revenge in the end though, so I guess all's well that ends well. You recall any more heinous acts by Killgrave that shook you to your core? Tell us your favorite Purple Man moment in the comments down below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.